and welcome to episode 3 of GrowSeattle. I'm Scott, and I'll be your host today. Today we actually have some pretty cool things. I was at the grocery store yesterday and I found this. This is a Shiitake Mushroom log. So it's a pre-inoculated log. You can see there's some drill holes and you can see that there's some mushroom heads starting to grow. There's actually quite a few of them. I've counted I think 20 mushroom heads. This log cost $15 and I think it's going to be pretty easy to do. So I'll read you the directions here. It says, keep refrigerated until ready to activate. Submerge log in room temperature water for about 5 to 6 hours. Place the log on a bowl with the 4 spore plug holes facing upward, so the log can breathe and the mushrooms can grow under the log. Keep away from direct sunlight as well as from constant breeze. Water twice a day with a spray bottle or under a faucet, quarter cup of H2O. The log could take a few days to start growing and up to 12 days to pick. Harvest when the mushroom starts to flatten out. First fruiting is about a pound. Keep watering until the next fruiting starts to bloom. Could take about 2 weeks. Repeat these steps a third time and can produce up to 2 pounds of mushrooms. Okay, and then it gives 3 little tips here. It says hot tips. Thinning out the small mushrooms every 2 inches will create larger and thicker mushrooms. The spent mushroom log makes some of the best compost due to the mycelium. Hot tip number 2, the gray discoloring around the inoculation is normal. I don't see any gray. All I see is white. I guess there is some gray in here. I don't think you can see very well. The camera's just too far away, but there is some gray. It looks a little bit like mold, but I'm not going to be worried about that. The mycelium is so well inoculated into this log that once we activate this, it's going to kick that mold out. So hot tip number 3, please visit our website for more information, fun facts, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that's actually not a hot tip, it's just a little advertisement to get you to their website. So I'm going to do what they said, and here we have a bucket of room temperature water. This is a 5-gallon bucket, as you can tell. No sponsorships here, just happens to be a Home Depot bucket. And I filled it with 4 gallons because I figured that there's going to be some displacement, and obviously naturally this being a log, it's going to want to float, which I didn't think about. So that's something that you could probably think about if you decide to do this. I thought this was actually just the coolest thing. I was gonna buy some mushrooms anyway. I think this towel is gonna be enough to hold this down. I do have a lid if I need to do that, but I don't think I'm going to. I'm gonna set this aside so I have the table space. Okay, and that is supposed to soak for 5 hours. I do see here that there are 3 little pieces that broke off. I'm going to add that to my compost here. Let's see, compost. Yeah, compost down there. It says it makes some of the best compost in the world due to the mycelium, so may as well take them at their word. And I do believe, since this box is food waste also, if I shred this up very finely, I can put it at the bottom of the compost, and it will start to break down, but it'll just help keep some moisture and help keep the water from dripping out. I am going to make a compost bucket because right now all I have is some food scraps and some coffee grounds, some paper towels that I'm probably going to I'm going to take the paper towels and the coffee filters and put those in the commercial compost outside, the one that they come pick up. I'm going to put that in there too. That I will use in the compost bucket. I'll just use another one of these, drill some holes. I have a drip tray, and I have another towel that I can use as a cover. This is garbage. I'll just throw that at you. Okay, so now that we have that, I was thinking that that mushroom log, because it makes such great compost, and because we're going to be soaking it in 4 gallons of water, that water is going to be inoculated with mycelium spore, like pieces of mycelium. Because every single piece of mycelium, if you cut up a mushroom and throw it in your yard, that whole mushroom will turn into more mushroom. It just starts growing mycelium out again, and inoculates whatever substrate it's in. So I was thinking that's going to be 4 gallons of mushroom mycelium tea. And you've heard of compost tea, right? That's just taking compost and mixing it with some water, letting it settle down so that all you have is pretty much the water part, and you can feed that. So I was thinking you have mushroom and you have compost, add those together, mushroom compost tea. Maybe that water will help inoculate the compost, so I'm going to use some of that water to wet down the materials to make the compost, and I think that's going to be, I think that's going to work out really well. So the second thing I was going to do is make some potting mix, because I ran out. That's all that I have left, and I'm actually going to make it slightly differently than I did last time. I'm going to add a lot more vermiculite, because I didn't have any the first time, so this is basically half and half coco coir and just regular potting soil. So okay, so these are the 12-inch drip trays, I believe. Yeah, 12 inch, that's right there. These fit the bottom of these buckets. These fit the bottom of these buckets. So if you have drill holes in them, it gives you a little bit of margin of error, and then you can use a turkey baster or something to suck it out. These, I believe, are 97 cents. And the bucket is what, like $3.75 or something? I don't know, like under $4. So that's like $5 for 5 gallons capacity, which is really good. You fill it up to the top, or keep adding, depending on your application. Because I'm going to do some bucket potatoes. I'm also going to do some corn. So the corn is going to want to have some good amount of soil. Because I do believe that depending on the variety of corn, it will fill up that whole bucket with roots. So, oh, right. There's one other thing that I had to do because I forgot to do it. Which is prepare the coco coir. Okay, so there's already 2 of this size. I'm not sure what the volume of this is. I would guess maybe 2 liters. I don't know, 2 quarts. There's already 2 of those in here because I want a full bucket, and I have a third just in case I need some more. The best tool that I've found to do this coco coir is these needle nose pliers, because you just go like this, in, press out, boom, look at that. That just goes in. Because this really gives you a good wrench, because it's the head is splayed, so it gives you a nice surface area, like a fork would do, as opposed to one tine that like a screwdriver would have. And it gives you 2 handles to rock back and forth, and then you can do it against your arm if you are not as strong or have some arthritis or something. I actually have some arthritis in my hands. I mean, I can definitely feel it opening pickle jars. I'm 37, I'll be 38 in May. So I'm not a spring chicken, definitely midlife, or middle age. There is no clean way of doing this because this is shredded beyond belief and dried out, so all the small pieces just are basically powder. Getting there, but we still need quite a bit more. I have a trowel here somewhere. Now I forgot where I put it. I might have actually left it in the garage, so I have to go look for that. And I actually am gonna go get the trowel. Okay, it was in the garage, of course, because it's where the potting soil is. Okay, so I used warm water for the cocoa core, just because warm water it has more energy in it, so it'll help to absorb better. That's why dissolving sugar in warm water works better. Okay, yeah, so I am going to need some more water, but I don't know if I'm going to need more cocoa core. Stuff really expands. I'm not sure how many times it's compressed, but it is like a brick. I mean, it's pretty solid. Now, you can get absolutely ripped off on this cocoa core, like 22 bucks or something for a pound of it. But if you find, I mean, I found this on sale. It's an 11-pound block, and this is enough to mix with like three 2 cubic foot bags of potting soil, or like, you know, raised bed soil. And it is kind of dusty, so I think I'm gonna sneeze. It'll come. That's pretty good. It's holding water, but you can squeeze it out. But you do want it to be fairly moist. I mean, not like soaking wet. But it's definitely all incorporated now. I think I'm gonna do less cocoa coir, maybe, and more vermiculite this time. Maybe I will do a little bit more coir. Sorry, I know that I mumble. I mumble and I don't have a microphone other than the iPhone that I'm using, so sorry. I am just learning how to do this, all this live streaming and stuff, so I thought I would skip the classic YouTube videos and just go straight to live streaming because okay, I am dropping cocoa coir in my little pond buckets, which I haven't shown yet, but and it's okay if the cocoa coir is really, really wet when you're making this potting mix, because you're going to be adding it to not wet materials like the vermiculite and the potting soil. Like I said, it is pretty dusty though. It's probably a better idea to do this part outside, which is what I usually do, but oh well. I was so eager to get the stream going that I just forgot to do it. Okay, I think that's enough. So we have about this much of the potting soil about to the under this rim, and about that much vermiculite, and I'm at about here for the cocoa coir, and I can add more cocoa coir later. That's pretty easy to add. Pretty easy to just mix up a little bit more in here and then just add it quickly. Like I said, this stuff gets everywhere, so it's probably better if you do it in a place where your wife or significant other won't get mad at you. Which is why I should have done it in the garage. Okay, so now we can bring this back up. I don't know if it's better to do it lengthwise or maybe for me it's better. And I think probably for you it's also better that in there. Okay, so yeah, I think I have to do it this way because otherwise this isn't going to work. I hope that doesn't fall. Okay, we'll do this by the scoop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 10 scoops is about an inch. So 10 scoops is about an inch. So that's 40. And there is some taper, but this is not very scientific. half as much of that. Table's gonna work. Okay, I think it should. Okay, probably doing this outside would be better because the vermiculite also is actually kind of dusty. Of course, not as dusty now, but you can see this is getting to be an acceptable amount of humidity, or I guess not humidity, wetness, as the cocoa core gives up some of its moisture. Vermiculite is like a sponge. The potting soil had its own moisture, so that is looking pretty good. That's pretty good. Oh wow, okay. That feels pretty good. Now if we do need more water, I think let's do a test cup. I guess we can just do it over this. This won't be that much. Okay, so it packs in at this mixture, it packs in. So I'm going to thoroughly wet this and see how that is. If I thoroughly wet this, I'm gonna guess that it's gonna expand and it's gonna have nowhere else to go but up. So we will see if I'm correct, because I did pack it in there quite hard. Okay, so oops, do that. Okay, so it is dripping out the bottom, so it should be pretty saturated. And if it is going to expand, I'm thinking it should expand up, but it's not, so I guess there was some room for it to grow without, which is good. That means I don't know if it's absolutely fully saturated, but it crumbles out, which is good. You don't want it to come out like sandcastle. So yeah, it crumbles out, which is good. I might add a little bit more vermiculite. Okay. Now, I guess while I have this tray here, I may as well fill it in and take out any big things, because obviously we're going to start some seeds in here. Not, we don't need anything really big. Okay. Put that down here for the time being. Okay. So now that we got our consistency, I'm going to add some more of everything. So there's more of the potting. I just want to use up the core, so we'll do the rest of the mix based off of the core. Because I wanted to use these buckets for other things. Now that I have this container, I'll just do all of the mixing in that. Although I may need one bucket as a tote from the garage to here. Okay, so I think we're gonna need a little bit more of that. Oops. Planters everywhere. On the floor, in the air. Best workouts are the workouts that are spontaneous and fun. I should do more of this with my left arm. Just naturally just grab things with my right, which for most of the time is better, right? That's why we have handedness. See, I wanted to switch again. So weak. Okay. I think we're right back where we wanted to be. Just make sure that there's no clumping of any one particular material. Vermiculite will not clump, but wet core does. It's overly wet. Okay, this is some amazing stuff. All right. Okay. And also, I need to go get a drill and a drill bit. And then we'll drill out some buckets. Okay, so I guess I'll have to use this as a tote. Okay, we'll use that for the compost bucket. So I'll drill out these ones. I only have 4 trays anyway, so I can only do 4 buckets. So 1, 2, 3. Which one is the dirt? This is the dirt, so I'll do this as the compost. And this is the core, so I'll do that as one of the buckets. Okay. Good enough. Put stuff. Do this, let's see, nearest power plug, this is here. That might be a problem. Okay. So here's the first bucket. Now, I don't know which direction is the better way to do it, so we will try both. This way. Okay. Anyway, I need to come over here because I don't have reach. Let's see. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 21-ish. I don't know, 21 holes. That's doesn't really matter. So actually, I think I might be able to do this all in one shot. If I just this bit is long enough, you guys just might not be able to see. Who cares? Okay, going too fast, just pull the bit out. same as the other. Arbitrarily. Okay, so it did not get this one. Okay. I guess diamond shape will be fine. Okay, so let's see. We have baby red, baby red. Baby white. Let's do maybe let's do the reds together. No, let's just do them all. Let's do all three. I'm gonna be overly picky. Do a third. Put the biggest one in first because we want the tops to be about the same ish. Yeah, okay. So we'll do that one first. Okay, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So this one do the deepest hole. Don't disturb the roots too much. soil up, and we're going to try to keep the growth away from the side of the bucket because it's not going to help it anyway. There's nowhere for it to go. So this is the baby white, so maybe I should mark and actually, why do I need that? I'm an idiot. I have the labels right here. Baby red. This is more of just an experiment. I just want to have fun. These don't need to produce potatoes. I have room out there if I want to grow potatoes. Plus potatoes are really cheap, so why would I need to do that? Yeah, so this root development you can see is definitely not as robust yet. Okay. 3 cups definitely makes a better scoop. Okay, so this remaining water. I should probably actually be using another bucket for this, but I just don't have one at the ready. Because we want the water to drain eventually, right? So that's how we know that we got all the way to the bottom. And that we know that the roots are going to get the best start possible. Now, if you wanted to do this correctly, you probably shouldn't do the cup and then the bucket, just do directly to the bucket, but those were already chitting and drying out, so I was just like, I need to get them in some soil. So that's what I did. You just gotta do what you gotta do, what you think will help. Because that's all you can do, is what you think can happen. You're not a plant. You don't know. But then that experience helps you the next time, and the next time, and the next time, and the next time. Okay, I'm gonna let that go because more than likely, eventually, it will start to drain out the bottom, and if not, I'll spray it again until it finally does. Okay, so that was the potatoes. I really don't have the room to do all this stuff. Okay. Mushroom log, check. Potting mix, check. Repotting potatoes, check. Repotting bush beans, okay. Yeah, I probably should have wetted the mix before I put the potatoes in more, but I didn't, so I'll do it with the bush beans. Do layers. And I was thinking that I'll do 2 in this bucket. I'll see how that works out. I've never grown these particular bush beans, and so I don't actually know. But I was also thinking that once I know, then I can do bush beans with something else. And not to mention, these particular bush beans, I accidentally planted a kale with them. So we'll see if that works. I don't know if it will or will not, but we'll see. Okay, so these ones I am gonna get right up to the top. probably should put that drip tray back under because I know it got knocked off. We're living on the edge. I really should have had a packet of bush beans I'll show you again, but oh well. Go watch episode 1. It's even rougher than this one, but what can you do? Trial by fire. Our third and final layer, we are literally at the edge, well, under the edge, under the rim, below the rim. Remember that movie? No, it was above the rim. Okay, so, but we are going to go eventually above the rim. Mount it up a little bit. We want lots of room, lots of roots. Pretty sure beans go pretty deep, so and I know they have that tap root, just the initial root that just goes. Okay, so so this is bush bean and kale because they'll mix up. Accidentally get planted both. Maybe it was wrong. That root does not seem that long. Actually, I don't know which root, whose root that is. So. And actually, we won't go above the rim because I didn't go deep enough down, but that is fine. I don't want to dig it up. These are my two best specimens. Okay, that one. This one was starting to circle, so that's actually a good sign. tie that up a little bit later. Just let those go for now. I'm gonna have to put these in the other room, so I don't have any other room. So after a little bit, I will have to flip that log, that mushroom log. And I guess I didn't label that bucket, but I'll do that later. What else are we going to repot? Cucumbers. Use my hand. I'm not going to risk trying to grab the shovel. Get it to a point where I can pour the rest. Unfortunately, I need 1.5 more buckets of honey mix. So I might do that? I don't know. Then again, I might not. I might do that off air, because whatever. It's just repotting cucumbers. You just saw me repot bush beans and the tag along kale. And that's not the name of the kale. It just happened to tag along with the bush bean. It's a double planting. And you saw me do the potatoes. And again, that's just an experiment. We're not going to get a ton of potatoes in a bucket indoors. I'll put it by the window. It's a southern facing, well, not too close to the window, but it is a southern facing window. It'll get quite a bit of light, plus any of the artificial light. There is a grow light, one of those alien blue and red UV. Infrared, I think. Is it infrared? Yeah, so anything else? Might just end it there. I don't know. There's some progress on fig. The fig is coming along. It's liking its little hole. Literally is just a hole in this cup. I roughed up the bottom. I cut up a little bit of the bark, 3 times the width of this. This is like a pencil width, so I took off about this much of the bark, scraped that up, just made a hole, pressed it against the side, and this is kind of an experiment to see if having air in there is going to affect it. So maybe this side is going to grow roots and this side isn't, or maybe this side is going to, the side touching the air is going to grow roots and the side touching the soil won't, or a mix. I'm not sure. It's a total experiment, but I had one of these shorter cups on it, this one exactly, and it was pushing down on the leaves because the leaves are starting to come up. It's humid enough, and it's getting enough light and whatever it needs to do that. So hopefully it'll root. Figs are pretty good at that, at rooting, so I'm not too worried about that. The hydrangeas look a little bit wilted. They had a flower bud at the top, not a flower bud, a leaf bud at the top and some at the sides. I decided not to take them off because either they'll just fall off on their own as the plant decides to use the energy for different things, or they will eventually put out leaves to help the plant make energy to put out roots. Those at least are my 2 hypotheses, and we'll see which one comes true. Took some blueberry cuttings, but I took new growth cuttings. Not really even cuttings, I just broke off some new growth, and I was going to see if that would plant, get some roots. That's not the way that you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to take dormant canes and but again, it's just an experiment. Because we're indoors, the conditions are a lot different, they're different than what they would be outdoors. Obviously it's consistent indoors, both temperature and humidity, if things are going well, so that makes a difference. You can cover or you don't need to cover. This one was looking a little bit droopy. Again, I didn't cut the leaves off, but I pulled this out back where our garbage cans are. There is this kind of bush. I don't know what the name of it is, but there is one of those bushes, and it has these green leaves with white kind of tracings on the inside of the leaf edge, which I think is cool. That particular thing bolts a lot, so it sends out these long, thin branches. So our neighbor has one of those trees on her side of the fence, and it reaches over, tries to touch our roof, and it drops like little nut-looking things. They kind of look like if you took the narrow part of an acorn and you cut that part off and then you put that end to end, 2 of those end to end, kind of looks like one of those, but it's just like a hard little nut. Actually, it kind of looks like maybe, what is it, a Brazil nut? No, not a Brazil nut. What's that nut? I don't know. It's one of those holiday nuts that looks kind of like that. It looks like a bigger version of what those are. But anyway, one of those dropped, and I guess it found favorable conditions. It sprouted. It was about this tall out of the ground with maybe, was it 3 or 4 leaves, about an inch long. So I decided to pluck it because I don't want it growing where it fell anyway. So either I bring it inside and try to propagate it, or I just pull it and put it in the yard waste. So I decided not to do that. Everything else is just kind of as it was. Bell pepper plant is chugging along. The bell pepper is about the size of a golf ball now. I have some more bush beans to plant. I just need to make up some more potting mix, and I probably need to go get some more buckets because, of course, I went to Home Depot and got 6 buckets, but then, you know, I wanted to get 20. But we'll do that. They only had 4 of these trays anyway, so I got 6 buckets, 2 to use as totes, or 1 to use as a tote and 1 to use as an indoor compost bucket. And we'll get that mycelium going. That's probably not the best mycelium to use because it's shiitake, which I think the best kind of woods to use are hardwoods. And I just watched a mushroom growing video, shiitake mushroom growing video last night, and they were saying that you're supposed to use, I think, 4 to 6 inch diameter oak. So yeah, I don't know if it's gonna actually be the best mycelium. I think it'll stick around. I think it'll propagate, but I don't think it'll ever grow more shiitakes because it's not the right conditions you're supposed to have. They're saprophytic and they feed off of fallen wood apparently. So anyway, you can pick the smaller of the mushrooms, and that increases the spacing so that the shiitake can get that nice big cap. But this is the first time that I'm going to be doing that, so yeah, maybe I'll wash my hands since I don't have any more potting soil. I'll wash my hands and maybe do the compost bucket. Actually, if I'm going to do the compost bucket, why would I wash my hands? Yeah, there we go, genius. Put that over there, so I need more potting soil. These things. This plastic bits up from drilling the buckets. Come on. And actually, this should be the compost bucket setup because we need to have 2 buckets, one with the holes. That was stupid. And one to act as a catchment for any liquid because we can feed that liquid to the plants, or we can mix it back into the compost, or basically that's compost tea. So probably go ahead and get that going. Okay, like I said, I was going to use this at the bottom of the bucket. Because is this has all that mycelium powder. That mycelium, as soon as it has something to feed off of, will start to propagate itself. And I don't want to call it intelligent, but stuff is kind of like a distributed intelligence. I would use scissors, but I think that the rips give it more surface area. Although the scissors might be fine because you could actually get it even finer with scissors. So maybe I'll do some rips to make some big stuff to plug the holes, and then maybe I'll use scissors because it does take quite a bit of effort to rip up cardboard. Then again, that means I have to find my scissors, which I did have. Oh, I see some. So basically this is just an empty bucket, one of the ones that I drilled out. Open up this mushroom box. Okay. I think that's enough ripping. And if I can find some scissors over here, I will use those, but otherwise I have to come around to you. And eventually I want to get multiple cameras set up, but that's another couple $100, maybe $300 investment. And I want to get a microphone. But I thought that unless I get going and just start making videos, then I'm never going to do it. And all of the wishing and waiting for buying the right equipment will just hinder me. So I thought because live streaming will just record it on YouTube anyway, that is the way to go. So, and then Streamlabs OBS makes it really easy to do it off of with an iPhone because they have an app. And my wife got one of the new iPhone 11 Pro Maxes, and I still have a flip phone, dinosaur phone. So she gave me her old iPhone 6S, I think, 6S, 7S, maybe 7S. Well, she didn't really give it to me, but she doesn't use it, obviously. And so my son and I use it kind of like one of those iPod touches. We just use it at home with the Wi-Fi. I could put my SIM card in it and have a smartphone, but I really don't want a smartphone, so I don't. Because I would be way too addicted to it. I had a smartphone, and I just had to get rid of it. doing way too much Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff. So I closed my Facebook, still have Twitter, but I don't really post on it anymore. I'm just kind of trying to declutter my life here. Do more things that I like to do as opposed to things that are entertaining but don't bring anything beneficial. Because I really think that Twitter and Facebook, they don't really bring anything beneficial. It just kind of fuels the outrage culture, and the commentary culture, and everyone's a critic culture, and some people are into that, and I don't begrudge them for it, but I don't know if it really adds that much to civilization. Sometimes you just gotta do the grunt work, but hopefully it'll pay off in the long run. So I was thinking of that if this actually made some good mushroom compost, which I think it will, and I think it will survive in the soil, or else it wouldn't make good mushroom compost, right? So if that is correct, and I can get some oak logs, then I could potentially keep producing mushrooms and never have to buy mushrooms again. It's just that probably getting those oak logs, I think they need to be pretty fresh. They're supposed to have as much stored sugars as possible, because as the tree grows, and then when winter comes or fall comes, it sucks back all the nutrients that are in the leaves and all the sugars and all that good stuff, reabsorbs it into the trunk and holds it there while it's dormant. So a little little duckweed and some algae is going to go in there because I dropped some of the cardboard into the pond in a bucket. So it's a freshwater pond with freshwater clams, some snails, definitely some algae, some other plants. I dropped a little bit of coconut coir in there, so there's some coconut coir. Yeah. Pond in a bucket. I actually have that. Those are actually a lake in a bucket. That is a pond in a bucket. That's from Ellis Pond on Mercer Island. It's a local pond where there are some fish. They're planted, I think. Some bass and some other thing. I'm not exactly sure. I know that there's bass, but not really sure. Probably a goldfish or two from somebody trying to get rid of an old pet that they don't want. But yeah, I guess back to this. So I guess to get started, I'm going to use some of this potting mix that we mixed up. It is going to have vermiculite and cocoa coir in it, but the main ingredient that I wanted was the soil. And since I have to make up some of that anyway, I may as well use this instead of going out and getting other stuff. And actually, we do a layer on the bottom, and then probably do another layer as we go. Here are some banana peels. Just going to add the potassium. Just cut those up. We're going to cut them up as fine as we can because the finer we cut them, the more surface area for the bacteria to get at it. So we'll just turn it into a little banana squid. I wonder if there are any yellow squid. I bet there are. I bet there's something called a banana squid. Nature is just so replete with life. Okay, so make our banana squid. Cut, cut. Bananas are great for this because they're herbaceous. I think bananas are the biggest herb in the world that we eat. They're not actually trees, even though they're called banana trees. And I think that's just because they don't produce any wood. It's just, there's fiber, the vessels, fibrous vessels, but it doesn't really make wood. So not a true tree. And I think they're considered the biggest herb because we use the leaves in cooking. I don't know. Not exactly sure what the true definition is. There's definitely multiple definitions. I'm guessing there's probably the botanical definition and then cooking definition and vernacular definition. Anyway. Again, this is just grunt work. I'll get some leaves eventually to mix in with this. All that good stuff, but not yet. And I have plenty of them outside, ready to go, but for the indoor stuff, I don't know if I'm gonna want to bring that much stuff from outdoors. I mean, this potting soil is commercial, so it's probably heat treated to minimize, and it might be inoculated with some beneficial stuff, who knows. Okay, that's the bananas. They're pretty evenly down there. Some coffee grounds. Another banana peel we'll cut up. Now this is paper towel and paper towel and coffee filter. I'm not going to put that in. I'm going to put that in the commercial commercial compost, the yard waste that they pick up. Paper products actually are not that great for compost, especially the commercial stuff. It really gums it up, but there's no other way to get rid of it. So they're just going to have to pay the extra money to, do the extra bacteria and microbes that will break down the cellulose that's in the paper. Because not many things like cellulose. That's why we can't eat paper. At least we can't digest it. Because if we could, like a moose or something, I think moose eat pine trees or something, which is disgusting. But I guess we do too. We eat junipers, which is. But I do not want to eat raw pine needles. Eggshells. That was nice. Gooey. Leafy stuff, more coffee grounds, another coffee filter, same pull out at least, some pineapple leaves, everything else can just go in, it's mostly coffee grounds and leaf buds and things like that. I just double bagged in the grocery store paper bag and folded up a third one and put it at the bottom. And as long as you don't put anything really wet in there, just banana peels, eggshells. Ooh, this banana has some banana in it. That's yummy. soak through. Cutting up some more eggshells that I missed. Hard-boiled eggshells would be the best, but there's going to be so much beneficial bacteria in here that it shouldn't be too bad. Okay, cut up the pineapple fronds, and you probably shouldn't put anything too acidic. So no fresh coffee grounds, no orange peels. Now, if you wanted to use orange peels, then dry it out. I don't know. I don't think it retains that much acidity if you dry it out and shred it really fine, and you just don't want to have it big clump, because it is an acid and it will inhibit certain bacteria that you want. There is a mango shell hull and a mango seed. I think it can just chill. It won't hurt anything. It probably won't be the best, but I think that's pretty good. Another amount of this. Okay, and then we'll put some leaves, some dry leaves on top of that later. I just don't have any to do right now, and I'll use this sprayer to help get some of this gunk off my hands, as well as wet down the material. Not too much. We don't need it to be too much, but just enough to get things started. Any excess water will drain to the bottom and help create some humidity. But I'm gonna go wash my hands because that is some gross stuff. Okay, and then we'll just take a towel. This towel is pretty big, so I'll just fold her like that. You want, maybe I'll unfold it, let's see. Because you want a fairly good seal around, and it's breathable enough that as long as there's a good seal around, enough weight on it that bugs can't get in, that would be preferable. And that's why you want to have the second bucket also, and not a drip tray, so bugs can't get in as easily at least. Okay, so that's our compost bucket. I guess I'll I'll label it. Okay, you want to just keep layering food, dirt, just so that the smell doesn't kick up. And as it decomposes, then you can kind of start mixing it around and then sprinkle a little bit more dirt. Next time I do that, I'm not going to use the pre-mixed potting mix that I just made. I'm going to use just regular potting soil, the cheap stuff that you can get. It's just a little bit of a covering, and it does add a little bit of the beneficial bacteria. One thing that I was going to do now that I've washed my hands is I was going to flip the mushroom log, and I was going to get a little bit of the mushroom log water to put in the compost bucket. Okay, so here's the mushroom log. Was floating a little bit, but I will flip it over. I think you can see a little bit of expansion at the bottom here compared to this side. So I'll go ahead and do this side, and I'm going to try to be as careful as I can with those new caps. This back on top, and I think I'll try to weight it down this time with something, although I'm not quite sure with what I can weight it. I can put this on top, and then this isn't very heavy, so that. That is better weighted. So we flipped the mushroom log. We put that in, let's see, we put that in at 10. So it's been 2 hours. We'll do another flip at 1 o'clock, maybe 1:30. Maybe we'll set an alarm for that. Alexa, set a reminder at 1:30 to flip the mushroom log.
Okay, I'll remind you at 1:30 p.m.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Okay, and while I'm there, grab a drink. Okay, that was 4 gallons of water, so lift your knees, right? Okay, so we flipped the mushroom log, got ourselves a drink. We were gonna hold off on repotting the cucumbers because I need to make more potting mix, and that's boring. You just saw me do that. We did the potatoes. I could probably spray the potatoes again because I don't see any liquid that has drained out yet. So that means that the soil is not 100% saturated. which is what we want it to be. Because after it's 100% saturated, we're just going to let it sit until it is pretty dry. That promotes the roots. Because that, you know, obviously if you, I mean, think about it, if you're on the couch, right, and all of a sudden you run out of beverage or snack, right, and you're hungry, what do? You have to go explore and go get it. And because plants can't move, they gotta create that system of transfer, which is their roots. And for potatoes, obviously they're going to store energy in the potato, which is actually a stem because it produces both roots and shoots. So that probably won't be enough either, so we'll come back and do that again. And I really don't know if there's anything else to show other than the plum tree's going really well. It might have been a little bit too close to the light for a little bit, so there might be a little bit of leaf burn there. This light is actually kind of a strong light. I should probably move it back. It'll have a wider coverage also. It'll reduce the, it'll reduce the amount of light that you actually get because, the square, what is it, the square root of the distance or whatever, square of the distance. But it'll have wider coverage. I won't have to cram the plants in as much. And I really do need to clear off this because all of these plants that are here, there's actually an animal cage here that I'm building for my son. I promised him hamsters for Christmas, but we are definitely behind schedule just because of all the other crazy things going on. So I need to clear this off, build the lid, waterproof the bottom with some wood glue. I'm just going to make a coat of wood glue, let it dry, make another coat, let it dry, make another coat, 3 or 4 layers. You can thin it out with a little bit of water at the beginning so that it's easier to paint on, although thicker coats do, thicker coats are thicker coats, right? So maybe the first layer you can do with a little bit thinned down and then a little bit more, until you get to full strength for the end fill to make sure that you get a good waterproof seal, because this is just birch board. It's just birch board, which is this birch project board. Ooh, on the snacks. So it is really light. It's really light, absorbs water really well. So, let's see if I have it here. I do, but it's out of reach. Type Bond 3 is waterproof wood glue, and you can find YouTube videos for waterproofing with Type Bond 3, and you can also make what's called poor man's fiberglass, which is impregnated fiberglass using Type Bond 3. So I was thinking that I would try something similar to that, because I wanted to have a little water feature here for the hamster, so that I could have like a little 2-liter bottle and a little circulation pump, so that I wouldn't have to keep changing the water. The water would be nice and fresh. Maybe have it filter through a little grow bed. I don't know. I think that would be pretty cool. So, going to be working on that. That's going to actually make it kind of cool, because then there's going to be this 1/2 inch grating. They call it construction fabric, even though it's galvanized metal. That's basically looks like chicken wire, like a square chicken wire or rabbit fencing, but 1/2 inches, right? So I'm gonna make a lid out of some 1x2 furring boards. I love furring boards. They're cheap. They fit in the car, well, a hatchback. They're lightweight, easy to use, easy to sand. So I'm going to make a lid out of the construction fabric and the furring boards, and then get some Velcro strips, and that's what's going to hold it against an old bookshelf. It's a hardwood bookshelf, and again I'll do some waterproofing on the bottom part. I think I'm going to use some aluminum flashing. It's what you use to make it so, like on a roof, the water doesn't run against a part of the roof that is coming off of another roof. So say like you have a roof like this, right? That place where it connects the roof to a wall for like a second story, that's where the flashing goes, and you just bend it, and so it makes it so that water can't seep between that seam that's created. But it's basically just heavy duty aluminum foil. Think of it that way. So I was going to use that and just cut out pieces and just bend it up in the little cubby holes where the shelves are. So this particular bookshelf has 3 square shelves on top, and then 2 longer rectangular shelves, cubbies on the bottom. So I was thinking that would be a good starting point for a hamster cage. We'll get some LED strip lighting to put in there with the open mesh, or with the mesh lid and the mesh sides on the part of the cage that I built as an extension, which is going to be the hamster's like playground, and the cubby holes are going to be like the different rooms for the hamster. So one would be like the feeding room, I guess, or actually no, probably the feeding stuff it'll be like the hamster's storeroom, because hamsters like to squirrel away things, right? So we'll sprinkle like the seeds and berries and dried berries and things like that for the hamster, and have some sweet potatoes growing for the hamster, like actually in the cage, because sweet potato slips grow really well, and they're easy to trim back, and then they just keep growing. Have some of those going for the hamster to eat and nibble on. I might have to do some research, but I think sweet potatoes, the leaves are edible. I'm pretty sure the leaves are edible. And if they're edible for us, they're almost definitely edible for a hamster, because hamsters have a broader spectrum, I think, probably of vegetation that they can eat. Yeah, I guess that's the update. I have another one of these birch boards that I'm going to make a whiteboard, so I can do some whiteboard stuff, because I want to do a series on like plant anatomy, because I've been watching some videos and going back to botany classes that I took in college. I've forgotten a lot of it, and so I'm getting back into gardening. Kind of want to refresh myself on plant anatomy so I can better propagate plants through cuttings, better understand how different plants propagate themselves. Like obviously strawberries use runners, and runners are a specialized version of this other thing that I learned about a couple days ago, so obviously I forgot it by now, but it's a specialized version of this other thing. So I was thinking that if I'm interested in plant anatomy, and that I'm sure other people are also, and then I can hopefully cut out those plant anatomy segments and make that into its own playlist. Because I really do like doing YouTube live, just because I'm lazy. I'm not going to do the editing, but if it's just pulling out something from an already recorded live thing, then I don't have to worry about writing a script and doing all that kind of stuff. I can just kind of work it in. Obviously, if I was going to do that, I would plan it out a little bit more in advance, just on my side. Have some diagrams ready, printouts, things like that, pictures to put up. Yeah, but beyond that, I'm not exactly sure where else to go. I guess I could show you some other plants. This is one of those ornamental cactuses. These are propagations. This one is doing really well. This one and this one is not doing so well, and I think it's because they're kind of butting against each other, looking for space. But I might also have to just lay this one flat. So as you can see here, there's not much root. There's not many roots there. So I might have to give this one actually its own little thing. We'll do that later. Some grapevines. Hoping that those will come along. Oh, I should probably plant this Yukon Gold. But it'll just keep shriveling up. I could probably soak it in some water maybe, and then just rip off any roots that grow, because it'll soak up the water and at least have more water. Ooh, I have enough potting soil. I can do these pumpkin seeds. I wanted to get a really good start on these pumpkin seeds, because I always want to have a pumpkin ready for Halloween, but I never get around to it, and then all we end up with is a very anemic looking quarter pumpkin, and that's no fun. Okay, so I will just use these little pots for different kinds of bulbs that I planted out in the front yard. Not exactly sure what kind of pumpkin these are, and I'm probably only going to keep one of the vines, or at least one of the vines inside. The other two I might end up planting, because we have some nice full sun areas, which is what these guys are going to want. Okay, so one of the seeds, I took off the outer coating, and you're not going to be able to see this very well, but you might be able to, so I'm going to try and just lean as close as I can. You might be able to see that little root starting to sprout out of the shell. I'm sorry, between the two cotyledons. So I took off the shell coating that usually covers pumpkin seed, and that way we can plant it straight up and down, which is actually the way they like it. we'll put them sideways, that's fine too, whatever. So I think I'm going to do the same thing with this one here. This pumpkin seed has been soaking for a couple of days. But if we peel it out of its shell and try not to get dirt in our 7-Up, we'll have another one, and this one just looks like a teardrop, or actually kind of like a eye shape with the tear duct on this side. And there is no root sprouting up, so we will just poke that in, but this one is totally viable. Pulling off the casing really just helps it go, because it doesn't have to worry about the casing anymore. But the casing acts as a timer, kind of like a seasonal timer, right? It's not going to sprout unless the conditions are correct for soil temperature, freezing soil, like the daily cycles of freezing and not freezing, whether it's freezing or not freezing. Some plants like the cold, they'll start in the cold. Some plants do not like the cold, they will not start in the cold. I'm not 100% sure, but I think pumpkins pretty much grow all across the US pretty well. So I'm not too worried about that. But I will put that over here. These pumpkins I will put between shoots of the potatoes, just because I don't have that good of a place to put it. Yeah, and beyond that, not sure. I don't know. This was cutting from a plum. It looks okay, and I don't know, there's some other little seeds that found its way in. It looks like some sort of brassica. I think it might be another kale seed, but it could be a radish seed that just found its way in. There are actually 3 mini cuttings from a plum. So what happened is that something fell off of this. Actually, no, I think it was this light fell off of this, and it landed, or it swung and took one of these branches clean off. It actually ended up being an okay thing, because this was a triple fork here, and I don't know if I'm going to keep this as a bonsai or if I'm going to plant that out eventually, but triple forks, especially for a bonsai, is a no-no. You want the classic double branch. But so I guess the light kind of did me a service, and so I took that branch that was probably about this long at that point, and I just made some cuttings off of that just to see if it would take. Because it's been grown indoors the whole time, and because the conditions aren't changing, it's not going to hopefully go through that much shock, other than it being ripped off the tree and being cut up. So yeah, that's that. This maple is starting to get some green in its stem here. It sent out like tiny leaf bud tries, and then they fell off. And it was green, and then it browned, and then now it's coming back. I repotted it from a very small cup that kept drying out. Put a clear cup on top so that it'll have a little extra humidity, give it a little boost. But yeah, other than that, this guy's going pretty gangbusters. I think I've shown him off before. There are a couple leaves that have they got a little bit crispy. Again, this light might be a little bit too intense. It's a pretty heavy light. The bulb inside this is pretty heavy. This fixture is pretty old, so I don't even think it has the original nuts and bolts. So tightening it is problematic. I do want to get some nicer lighting in here. All the lights being these ones, these 250 watt equivalents, I believe. I might even go higher than that, but it just depends on the cost to benefit ratio. Other than that, every day is just going to get better and better and better for growing. Slowly accumulate more and more pots for potting these things out. The hydrangeas look like they're going to take, so I'll have 6 hydrangea cuttings, 3 of the vining hydrangeas that I believe are blue and white. I think they're white on the outside, blue on the inside. And then we have the regular blue hydrangeas, the brilliant blue. Planted a lot of kale because my son wanted a lot of kale. I don't know. Apparently they eat kale at their school. I have a tomato that's ripening. Nice, this size tomato. And it's starting to get some orange and red to it. It's not a little bit of a tinge of this color orange, or maybe a light terracotta, more of a light terracotta. That is cool. So I don't know if you can see those over there, but I have some tomato vines that are taller than me over there. They are planted in 12-inch containers, which next time I would want to do them bigger. Eventually getting some 5-gallon buckets. But I'm growing these for 2 reasons. One, to have some stock to make cuttings off of to plant in the garden for when that comes. Because I want plants that are good to go. I want them to be producing right off the bat as soon as they can, soaking in that wonderful southern sun that we have. We get southern sun for about, I think it's about 6 hours, but it's 6 hours that shifts through our garden. So we have a lot of different things that get that wonderful 6 hours of southern sun, which is not going to be too much to burn them, even in the hot, as long as everything's watered well. But it's also not, it's also not too little to where we can't get some good production. So it's kind of that sweet spot that you're looking for, because these tomatoes are going to be kind of near the house. They're not going to be right up against the house, so they're not going to get a lot of heat reflection, but they are going to be near the house, so they will get some heat reflection. This was the cucumber that I was going to transplant. I have a feeling that if I just pull up on it, it's going to come out of the thing. So, cucumber, ready to transplant. All of the cucumbers that I have gotten the leaves have not been so good, and I noticed that the ones that were covered, because I did an experiment, I covered some of them and I didn't cover others, and I noticed that the ones that were covered didn't have that, and the ones that were covered, the ones that were covered didn't have the melting leaves. the ones that were not covered did have the melting leaves, and I'm not exactly sure why that was. I'm wondering if it's because I was tempted to water the ones that weren't covered more, which means that the water going on the leaves pushed the leaves onto the dirt, and then if it's touching the dirt, it wasn't happy. So I went ahead and covered that one. It has grown since the time I've transplanted it, and it has had no more melting leaf, so I'm thinking that it just didn't want to be touching the soil. So, oh yeah, I have some pepper plants that I wanted to transplant into 5-gallon buckets, so maybe I'll do that tomorrow along with cucumber, because by then I'll have 2 buckets at least. 1, 2 buckets. Could do a third. I have third. Actually, I have 4 buckets that I could use, but I think I might just go get some more. Home Depot, if you want to send me some buckets, I would be glad to do it, because I did look online and there's 20 buckets for $55, but you have to buy it online and pick up in the store, so I might have to do that. I've also wanted to try the Dutch bucket method, which is double bucket with I think it's with ebb and flow. Might be drip. I don't know. I think there are probably 2 ways to do the Dutch bucket, but I wanted to try to do that. I had planted 8 corn. There's one that germinated, and it's 2 inches tall right now, so I got to get that going, because I don't want it to be confined to the knockoff solo cup. Got some more bush beans. I got 4 more that are about as tall as the ones that I transplanted earlier, but those are in the kitchen, in the window. Yeah, oh, I guess I could have unplugged the drill and had the lights going. Oh, I did end up getting another pineapple, because the one pineapple that I have going, it is going, but the middle of it was not such a great pineapple, and so it was rotting a little bit on the inside. This one is beautiful on the inside, so I'm hoping that that is going to work a little bit better. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. I'm just going to twist that part off, save this part for later. Oh, wonderful, beautiful, wonderful smell. Okay, and then we will peel off some of these to expose some of the roots, if there are any roots yet growing. And I think instead of planting this one right away, I think I'll try to do this one in some water first, get the roots going. The last one that I did, the roots were already going pretty strong, so I just stuck that in soil pretty much straight away. Actually, straight away. Yeah, but this one does not look like it has that many roots going. I see the starts of some. So I think I'll just keep pulling out some leaves until a good ledge to drape this into some water. Okay, so now I don't even see. Well, I guess I do. Do one more row. Okay, let's do that. Okay. I think cup. Pretty much has to be so I'm going to put this in so that it's barely touching maybe the middle of all of where, the segments that I pulled off. So, because we want there to be a moisture gradient to where the plant can sense that there's water there, but not all of its roots can touch it. That way it'll try to reach for the water. So let's try there. There, that's probably pretty darn good. We'll push it in just a little bit, so it's probably pretty darn good. Okay, so I'm gonna put this here so that I can get some sunlight. So there, pineapple top growing to replace hopefully this one. I don't know if that one's gonna make it through because the center part is where the new leaves come out, and if that's rotten, I don't know if there are any other axials that it can produce a new plant. Maybe it'll just get to a point where it's like, I can't do this, so it'll send out a runner or a pup. I'm not sure how far it'll send it, or if it needs to be in a bigger pot for it to do that, because right now it's just in one of these size pots, just because the roots aren't that extensive, so I might have to repot that. I wanted to get some more of the 12-inch pots. I think the 12-inch pots are probably pretty darn good for most of the different kinds of bell peppers, depending on how you keep it trimmed and how you keep it fed and if you keep it watered. But I'm going to be pretty much on it, hopefully, because I'm going to be filming, so I think those would be a little bit cheaper. I think they're like $6 as opposed to $10. So I mean, $4. That's $4 savings per. The other alternative is to do the bucket with the drip tray. Bucket with the drip tray is like $4.75, so it's cheaper even than the 12-inch containers. The only thing is the 12-inch containers have, are the same, pretty much the same circumference as this at the very top, so why not just use a bucket? You can produce more. They got a handle, which makes it easy. And if you plant the plant a little bit offset from the middle, then even when you lift the handle up, the plant isn't going to be there, or it'll have enough give that you can still pick up the bucket. Or if you're picking it up like on the side, if it's getting to be pretty heavy, because you're going to have pretty much like a gallon of water plus a gallon, or plus 5 gallons or 4 gallons of soil. I don't know, whatever. So if you pick it up and you are carrying it like this, right, then it's going to be away from the plant. Or at least it gives you a help up, and then you can get your hand under it and carry it like, carry it like this. Or, yeah. But I guess that's all that I really had. Oh, I guess I could show you this. I need to replant this too because this is definitely getting root bound. You can probably see roots coming out the bottom. Actually, not too bad. Actually, I don't see any. Well, okay, I do. Yeah. Anyway, this needs to be repotted, but right now I think it's concentrating more on putting out leaves and less on roots, just because it's pretty much root bound. This little nub hopefully will fall off pretty soon so that this can grow a little bit better. I might need to cut this out and just have these 4 stalks going, because this is trying to push into here. This is going to be growing inward, this is going to be growing inward, so actually I could probably just knock that off right now. This might grow out, this might grow out depending on how the light is. So I guess we'll just let this one go, but leaves are coming back, so that's good. And the tops to those are replanted in just little nursery pots like this. They seem to be holding up, so hopefully I will have 4, I think 5 actually, because I did 2 cuttings out of one of them. Hopefully I'll have 5 new poinsettias for next year. And then every year that poinsettia will just keep getting bigger, cut it back, grow bigger, cut it back, grow bigger. And then I'll have those ones. So hopefully those will be good. And then next year I can get a different color and propagate that out the same way. This little guy is doing lovely. We potted him, I think, last episode. Yeah, but his mommy's outside. And here's, oh shit. That's all contained on the table, so not to worry. Here's his brother or sister. That's in there. Oh, this. So these are some brown rice kernels just out of a bag of rice from the grocery store. Brown rice. You could probably even get away with some of the white rice kernels sprouting, maybe. But the brown rice still has the hull on it, and the embryo still attached to the cotyledon. So these are sprouting. I have some actually. Ooh. There you go. Brown rice. You can see, oh, there's a root at the bottom, so maybe it might be time to replant this one too. That is exciting. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 brown rice. I'm gonna plant. Oh my God, that's so awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna replant those. This is just coconut coir, I believe, just coconut coir. So I'm gonna use some of this potting mix. We'll use this. You can use this cup. That is cool, because I was just thinking about that, or I was just talking about how these ones germinated. Well, those ones have a little root coming out, but these ones are actually going. These ones actually have some green on top. That is so cool. Okay. Let's wet this down. So cool. Okay, I'm so flipping out. That is awesome. Okay, so once these get to about this tall, I believe, maybe a foot tall, then you can plant it uh, in water, basically, like a muddy water. You know, just I don't know. I'm gonna have to do a little bit of research, but probably just soil out here or something. I don't know if I'm gonna grow it inside. Then maybe just use some of this and just get some fertilizer, or I don't know. Maybe I'll use some of the pond water buckets. I don't know. That would be kind of interesting because obviously rice paddies are basically just ponds, right? And so in China, in Southeast Asia, Northeast Asia, where they are able to grow different kinds of rice, basically they make the rice paddies into pond habitats with fish, shrimp, frogs, and obviously the insects are breeding there, so the frogs are eating the insects, the fish are eating the insects, the fish are eating the frogs are eating the fish. So you have an awesome food web going on. All of that animal waste product goes into feeding the rice. The flooded rice field provides enough water for the rice to soak up that water to produce as much as it can. So I'm really excited. That would be I'm excited. I don't even know what to say at this point. I think I have a spoon over here. Okay, so I'm gonna try to get this out gently and not disrupt it too much. So I didn't actually do that great of a job, but good enough, I think. Okay, so that was not the best transplant in the world, but I think it'll work. Okay, so I'll wet that down. I probably should have waited until the root system got a little bit better, but I can't wait. I am too impatient. Because I'm growing rice. So one advantage of the health craze and whole grains and all that good stuff. Oh, didn't I say I had 8 of these? Well, hopefully the 8th one will pop up. Oops, why did I do that? But anyway, actually I probably don't need all this water, so like that. So hopefully the 8th one will pop up and I'll have 2, 2, and 2 to plant. Once that happens, then I'll have to get some, I don't know, maybe these type container, maybe vases would work. And then maybe this would work. Get some soil, maybe like up to here. I think it said like 6 inches of water. So soil, plant it, roots. I don't know how big rice gets, so I don't think it's that big though, because you always see, well, actually I don't know. The harvest height is probably like this tall, I would guess, because you always see, you know, in the movies or whatever, you know, all the old ladies and all the old men, farmers, are all hunched over. It's because they have to bend down to plant the rice, right? So anyway, I think we'll end on that high note. I think that's a cool place to end. We have some rice going. It's going to start to grow. I think it's going to start to take off from here. Once it gets to about this tall, we'll transplant them. Actually, we might have to transplant them earlier than that into maybe 2 per cup. And then when they get this tall, who knows? I'll have to do a little bit more research. This is the first time I've grown rice, but I think it's kind of cool that you can just grow it out of a bag of rice. Actually, why don't I grab that bag? Okay, so this is not an advertisement, not sponsored, obviously. 100% whole grain brown rice and brown sweet rice. Oh, so this is a mix. Okay, so this is a mix. So there's going to be brown rice and brown sweet rice. I didn't know that. I might want to start some more of these then. Okay, so this cup is already going, so I guess I could start a new cup. Good enough cup. One here. Okay. Let's just go for it. I wanna plant some rice. Because I don't think you have to plant them in water, but they work well in water. So I was thinking maybe have to get some more buckets, because then we would really get things going. So with this much rice, there's a lot of starch on it, so you're gonna have to change this water several times. So I'm gonna start with quite a bit, so that when I pour it off, I don't have to worry about getting the rice. So I'm not sure which ones are the sweet rice. I think the sweet rice are the ones that aren't as, they don't look like they have as much coating on it, and they don't have any green to them. That's what I'm gonna guess is the sweet rice. Anyway, put that over there. I have 2 mandarin seeds that I'm gonna try to plant. I don't think they're gonna work out, to be honest, because I tried a whole bunch and none of them worked. But I am still ever hopeful. Still ever hopeful that one of them will take, because that's all I need is one. once I have one, then I can propagate them out. So we'll do 2 seeds about a 1/4 inch in. Those seeds have been soaking for 4 or 5 days, I believe. And I need to get this rice out of here because this is eating rice. Oh wait, but I didn't talk about the rice. Okay, so this is CJ brand Banh Mi. Banh Mi. Okay, brown and sweet brown rice. So I guess Banh is brown and Banh Mi is brown, sweet brown? I don't know. Okay, anyway. Yeah, so I just get that at any Asian market. I'm sure any other brand of rice would work too. I was going to pour this, and this, that. And I think actually citrus seeds are best if you do not dry them. So these were seeds that were sent from China, which probably is why they didn't germinate. Citrus seeds also sometimes need warmth. So are these tangerines or mandarin? I think they're mandarin. And today is what? Today is the 10th, so 2-10. Oh, actually, I didn't need a double label because I planted them both in one cup. Funny. So do this thing just in case I ever transplant them out to separate cups. That is going to depend on whether or not they actually germinate though. I'm going to keep those humid, put a cup on, container on top of it. Actually, I have a compost bucket now. Look at that, Compost bucket for compost. Imagine. Actually, I don't know how much time I'm going to spend cutting stuff up. Might get fed up with it and just start throwing stuff in whole-ish. But in actuality, the smaller things are, the better they will eventually break up. And I could actually probably get away in Seattle. I could probably get away with just composting outside all the time, but I would rather have some inside stuff that I can use for the indoor garden. And then I don't have that big of a yard actually, so
getting enough material to actually compost for my whole yard is kind of problematic sometimes, so I guess I could ask my parents if I could rake their leaves, but I kind of don't necessarily want to rake leaves. Everything else. I need a bigger grow room. That almost dropped into my pond bucket. That would have been fun. The rest of that stuff can dry. Okay, I think I might end it there and maybe see you again tomorrow. Thank you for joining me on GrowSeattle.